Today's top stories from Breakingviews. The latest management reshuffle at Deutsche Bank shows trading and risk management know-how are still crucial, and Indonesia's foreign mining investment changes risks putting off future investors for short-term gain. With me is Peter Tal Larsen. I changed the word nous for know-how there because I hadn't heard of the word nous, but that's for another day. This management reshuffle at Deutsche, Anshu Jain has come in, of course, and brought all his investment banking people in with him, right?
Yeah, I mean, Anshu is going to be co-chief executive with Jürgen Fitschen. This is this compromise they brokered because they were uncomfortable with not having a German in the sort of a German speaker in the top job. But it's clear from this reshuffle that the people that he's putting in place around, that are going to be put in place around them, are all coming from the investment bank. So the chief risk officer, the new chief risk officers come from the investment bank. The new COO has come from the investment bank. This guy is going to be the head of legal and compliance and run the European business is also coming from the investment bank.
So why is this such a big deal? Okay, they're all from investment banking. I mean, let's face it, investment bank of global markets was the big part of Deutsche.
Yeah, and you could say that the investment bankers kind of took control of Deutsche Bank in 2002 when Joe Ackerman was made CEO. But what's interesting, of course, we've had this massive financial crisis. Investment banking businesses globally are shrinking and under pressure from capital charges and so forth. Deutsche has embraced the strategy of saying we're going to do more retail banking, have more of a universal banking approach. But what's clear is that the investment bankers, sort of the talent pool in these institutions, is still coming from the investment bank, and it's not just Deutsche where this happened. It's happened to a certain extent at Barclays and then HSBC and elsewhere.
Are you surprised that Deutsche or that Anshu Jain has been allowed to get away with this, or do you think this was part of his deal?
I think it's a bit of both, but I think it's also a sign that actually these banks, even though they're trying to sort of broaden out their range of businesses, the core kind of risk management functions, kind of actually controlling these big balance sheets. And as the crisis showed, the risks in these banks are in the investment banking businesses, and that's why you need people who understand those businesses to run the whole show.
Okay, let's talk about this Indonesia story as well. You can explain the context, but this, it seems to me, is this idea of resource nationalism at its ugliest.
Yeah, I mean, it's to a certain extent, it's par for the course. I mean, operating mines in Indonesia has never been a straightforward business, and they've played around with this law a few times. But I think what it shows is that actually, despite all of Indonesia's many attractions as an economy of 250 million people growing very quickly, these kind of things will put off investors. The most startling stat I saw is that its proportion of GDP, foreign direct investment in Indonesia is lower than it is in Syria. Which tells you something. And that's one of the reasons why Indonesia, for example, is importing a load of, is having to import refined fuel, even though it's a big oil producer. So these kind of things cause problems for the Indonesian economy. And so to a certain extent, there's a short-term gain in saying we're taking back control of these mines that are in Indonesia, but the long-term consequences aren't great.
Okay, Peter, many thanks for that. Peter Tal Larsen. If you want to watch our US Breakingviews show, that comes on every day at 12:30 Eastern, 17:30 GMT. Of course, you can find all of these shows on the Breakingviews website and on Reuters.com. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.